I want to preface this video by saying whatever happens in this video, I still consider this car a success. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is how you jinx something. As you will shortly find out, this video did not go even remotely according to plan. I don't want to say it was worst case scenario because like I made it out fine. There was no like physical injury or crash or anything like that. Let's continue with this intro. For all I know, we might not even make it to the track. We did make it to the track. The car may very well blow up on the way there. I've accepted that. The car did not blow up. But the fact that we got this thing running and driving all by ourselves, I'm patting myself on the back. I'm content with that. Now I will give myself some credit where credit is due. As you'll see in the video, the car made it there. The car made it back. The car actually drove phenomenally. What it didn't do is drift, but we'll get to that in a little bit. That being said, if we open up the hatch here, you'll see, we are locked and loaded. Got all my camera stuff, got my clothes, got everything I could possibly need. We have an 8-hour drive in this thing. When we finished building the engine, the odometer was at 387,737. We are now at 388,294-ish. That puts us over 500 miles on the new engine. We've done one oil change already. I still have, not generic, what's the word? Conventional. We still have conventional, non-synthetic oil in there, which is what you're supposedly supposed to run on a new engine build. I have the engine oil that I usually run, and once we get to the track, we will do our final 1,000 mile oil change. That being said, we have, I'm not exaggerating, we have an 8-hour drive. It's a little over 500 miles until we get to our hotel. So let's begin. And so began the 493-mile road trip from Northern California, where I live, all the way down to Victorville, California, where our hotel was, which is about 15 minutes from Apple Valley Speedway, which is the track that I was supposed to be driving in this video. The reason I'd like to emphasize this is because I did make that drive in the car with the engine that I built, and it was my first time building an engine. I'm allowed to be a little bit proud of that, especially considering that that's about the only thing I have to be proud about in this video. Finally, we make it to our hotel in Victorville, California, and this is where things start going downhill. A key piece of information to this entire story is just how rushed this timeline was from finishing my first engine build to its first track day. The whole 1,000-mile break-in period for the new engine sparked some conversation in the comments. I was seeing a lot of people saying, like, dude, 1,000 miles is way too overkill, just get a few heat cycles, you'll be good. Some people saying, like, yo, you should break in the engine how you plan on driving it, just However, me personally, because this was my first time ever building an engine, I wanted to do everything pretty much by the books. Throughout the content on this channel leading up to this event, I've made it clear that for the first 1,000 miles, which is a lot of miles, the first 1,000 miles on the new engine, I'm keeping it below 4,000 RPM. I'm keeping it below 50% throttle, like I am babying this engine to make sure everything seats properly. The problem with this, and the short timeline, is that 1,000-mile break-in period was still going on all the way up until I got to the track. I'm driving 8 hours in this engine that I just built across the state of California for my first ever track day, and it wasn't until we hit that first 1,000-mile mark that I started actually giving it some gas and going beyond 50% throttle and going above 4,000 RPM. The issue with this is that I was, 7 hours into the road trip already, and when I'm finally able to start giving it gas on the freeway, I immediately can notice something's wrong. We finally get to our hotel parking lot around 2 in the morning after this exhausting drive with no AC, and immediately pop the hood and start trying to troubleshoot what's going on with the car. What makes this extra frustrating, at least from a content creation standpoint, isn't even the fact that my car was having issues. It's the fact that I didn't film anything. And at least I do have a valid reason this time. We got to our hotel parking lot past 2 a.m. and we're supposed to be at the track at 8 a.m. the next morning for the first track day in the car. I was just on, okay, we gotta fix the car, screw the content, screw the YouTube stuff. I wanna be able to drive this car tomorrow. Let's do what we need to do to get that done. So A, I didn't film it, there's no content to this video, and B, I still didn't even get to drive. At this point in the video, I was like a zombie, dude. I was beyond tired from the drive. I figured, you know what, we'll leave the car in the parking lot. I'm gonna take it to the track tomorrow, and hopefully someone's gonna be able to help me troubleshoot, and I'll be fine, I'll be able to drive. Here's the very limited amount of footage I got from that day. We made it. Wow, do we have a lot to catch up on. I am so exhausted. But Hunter is here, obviously. Gabe is here. Sound excited or something.
I'm sick.
What up? The car made it, dirty and all. Hunter took my trailer with his car in case there was a mishap, so we caravanned. I was behind him. Just go straight back. Don't touch any, don't turn the wheel. He is getting kind of sketch.
Sounds more VQ-y.
It does sound, he got new exhaust. It does sound more VQ-y. Effortless dismount. He's got that custom AVS tire wall livery. This thing's looking good, dude.
Right? It looks like it's driven.
Yeah, it does. It sure does. Tiny little ramps. Go like ever so slightly that way. Yeah, like, yeah, ever so slightly. Little bit more. The other, yeah, other way. Yep. Straight. Beautiful. You've done it, mate. Drivers meeting.
If you're doing a cool down lap, keep your hand out the window and do a little point by. That way you don't get run over. No backseat passengers.
That's it. That's all I got. The entire trip. That's the footage that I got. It hurts. It hurts me. I bet it hurts you guys. While I was working on my car in the pits, I did give Gabe my Meta glasses. I think Hunter filmed a couple clips. So you guys have at least some driving to watch. I'll include some of those Meta clips and whatever Hunter filmed. They were killing it. They had a blast.
Dude, why can't I get that fucking turn?
Keep in mind, this was Gabe's 4th track day ever in his entire life, I'm pretty sure. It's been really cool watching him progress, and I'm just throwing all these clips in here so you guys at least have some driving to watch. But Gabe was just lapping it over and over again, trying to get the whole track down, working on those entries. I don't even think he knows that I'm gonna use all of this footage. I don't know if he's gonna be stoked on it or not. But yeah, here, enjoy some Gabe laps. And then there's a really great clip of him hitting the tire wall at the end. And then this whole time, while Gabe and Hunter are both getting laps, I am just roasting my ass off in the pits, doing every single diagnostic test that I can think of to figure out what's going on with my car. We'll get to that in a little bit though.
Fucked up the filming on that one because I thought you were gonna kill me. Fuck. What a fucking lap! Let's go! That was a good one!
Too much sauce.
That was a good one! Oh, you might be stuck.
And that, ladies and gentlemen, is it. That is all I got for my first track day in the S13. I put that in quotes because I didn't even get to drive. Gabe and Hunter were killing it. Like, even just watching this footage was a ton of fun. And then obviously I'm still stoked that I went. It was still a super fun trip. After about 7.5 hours of me baking in the sun, trying to fix my car, I admitted defeat and I began the almost 8-hour drive back home, which again I did in the 240 with the fresh engine that I built, and the car drives fine. I'll explain what was happening in a second here. But yeah, made the drive from Apple Valley all the way 493 miles, I believe, back to Northern California where I live. And the car made it great. Not a single issue aside from the fact that I couldn't drift the car. Made it home, which is pretty much caught up to where we are now in the video. So let's go down to the shop so I can actually explain what was happening, because we did get to the bottom of it. I would like to acknowledge that all of this was preventable. I think any person with any bit of common sense would have either just at least pushed the car a little bit before driving it across the state for a drift event. I had over 500 miles on the new engine before leaving, and obviously the engine would have been fine if I just like gave it a little bit of gas just to see if the car drove fine, you know? I'm aware that that was lame on my behalf. You know, end of the day, it is what it is. I am pretty bummed that I didn't film anything, although like I said, like I was just focused on doing everything in my ability to get the car drivable. Content was not the priority. It was on such a time crunch that I was dedicating every minute to figuring it out, not filming and explaining or anything. But I do want to walk you through sort of how it all happened. Okay, we're doing a reenactment. This is me, right? Woohoo! We're driving 7 hours across the state to our first drift event. And then here I am, you know, keeping the RPM below 4,000 because I'm babying my engine, probably more so than I should have. Here we are, we're driving, and then about 7 hours into this road trip, I look down at my odometer and I see like, wow, we finally reached our 1,000-mile break-in period. Hip hip hooray! I can finally actually give it more than 50% throttle. I can finally actually get it above 4,000 RPM. When I finally actually give a little bit of gas, it feels normal, up to 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 RPM. And then once I really put my foot down around, you know, 3,000, 4,000 RPM, the car just, like it feels like it's cutting power. I was able to drive 1,000 miles without realizing there was an issue because of just how much I was babying the engine. Up until like right above 4,000 RPM, the car feels literally flawless. It idles perfect, it revs perfect, it drives totally normal. Obviously, I'm super light on the throttle, so I wouldn't notice anything, but like, to my knowledge, the car was perfect. It wasn't until I actually started putting load on it that like right around 4,000 RPM, it doesn't cut power. Like, it's not like the car dies. Pretend my finger is the gauge here on the RPM. Let's say I floor it. The needle goes up, 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 and then right around 4,000 RPM, it just sort sort of like stays there and maybe ever so slightly goes up, but like keep in mind that the pedal's floored. It literally felt like a normal 240, and then right around that 4,000 RPM range, it feels like it has 60 horsepower, which I'm aware, stock KAs aren't powerful engines. They make like 130 or 140, but it was like slower than a slow KA should be, That was pretty much the only symptom I had to go off of. I had my homie drive the car, and the first thing he said is it feels like the car, I don't mean this in the derogatory term, he said it feels like the car is retarded, aka the opposite of advanced. Like it feels like the car is retarding timing. So we started thinking about anything that could be retarding the timing, which would be the knock sensor, which would be the actual timing itself. Like maybe I messed up the ignition timing, maybe I messed up the mechanical timing, the coolant temp sensor, the throttle position sensor. What else did we check? The mass airflow sensor. I'm gonna pop the hood here and picture, right now we're in the nice shade of the shop. All of this troubleshooting that we were doing was either at 2:30 a.m. in our hotel parking lot the day before the track day, or at the track in 99-degree weather with no sunshade over my head. I verified the ignition timing yet again with the timing light, and sure enough, it was dead on 20 degrees. I back probed the mass airflow sensor, I back probed the throttle position sensor, and believe it or not, I actually went a step above that, and I actually replaced the mass airflow sensor with Hunter's mass airflow sensor because we know it works. I replaced my throttle position sensor with Hunter's throttle position sensor because we know it works. We checked continuity on the knock sensor. We tried unplugging the coolant temp sensor. All of these tests that we were running were within normal range according to the FSM when we probed it with the multimeter. Even after replacing with Hunter's known working sensors, same issue persisted. We were pretty much able to rule out anything sensor related. For an engine to run, you need air, you need fuel, and you need spark. Our brain went to fuel. It maybe seemed like a fueling issue, like the car was cutting fuel under load. While Gabe and Hunter were at the track getting some laps in, I drove my ass down to the AutoZone in Apple Valley. I paid $180, refundable of course, to rent a fuel pressure tester from AutoZone. I brought it back to the track, and I hooked up the fuel pressure tester to test the fuel pressure. Sure enough, it was dead on 43 PSI at idle, which is exactly what it's supposed to be per the FSM, so I was able to rule out fuel pressure. I pulled the spark plugs and checked the spark plugs, and I will say, which looking back I can see what caused this, they were a little on the grayer/whiter side, as if they were running, like the car was running a little bit lean. Not crazy though, like not enough to be alarming. So now we know the car has fuel, the car has spark, and then we sprayed brake cleaner around like any connection to check for vacuum leaks. There were none, and the car has air. So air, fuel, and spark. Sensors are good. Timing is verified. What could it possibly be? You can see my confusion, right? Everything that I just explained took about 7 hours of troubleshooting. And to be fair, like when I was at the track, I was talking to the homies. Even though I wasn't driving, I was hanging out and having a good time. I had just driven across the state, so I wanted to hang out with my homies. So it wasn't like fully dedicated to trying to figure out what's going on. But I mean, majority of it was. Finally, after admitting defeat, I drove the car back to my homie Steven's house in LA, where we began running more tests. And that's where we actually popped the valve cover off to verify mechanical timing, because we already verified ignition timing with the timing light. The only logical explanation in our heads, because it felt like it was retarding timing, it felt like the timing was off. The only logical explanation we could think of is that somehow either I messed up the mechanical timing, which I mean, not to toot my own horn, but like I am so anal when it comes to the timing, because like I don't want to pull the front covers off and redo that. It's a whole lot harder with the engine in the car, I thought maybe like on first crank it slipped a tooth or something, but we pulled the valve cover, verified mechanical timing, and sure enough it was either 6 links or 7 links, whatever. We checked against the FSM and like it was all correct. So finally, what we did, the one test that we didn't do at the track, because we didn't have a long enough fuel line to check, was fuel pressure under load. Because if you guys remember, the car idles fine, and the car drives fine under low load, like 20-30% throttle. It's when you really give it gas that it starts struggling. And looking back on it, we probably should have tested this much earlier. But sure enough, we tested fuel pressure under load, and again, at idle, everything was fine, but under load, it dropped down to like 23 PSI, which is low. So right there, we're like, okay, it's either the issue or it's a issue. We swapped in a used but known working fuel pump. We went on a test drive, and then here's where things really start to not make sense. It's really, I wish I filmed some of the symptoms so I could better explain it. When you floored it, and I keep saying it was cutting power around 4,000 RPM, it did sort of feel like, it felt like you were letting your foot off the gas and then giving it gas again, then letting it off and giving it gas again. It seemed somewhat inconsistent, like sometimes it would just slowly let off, sometimes it would kind of stutter for a sec. After replacing the fuel pump, that stuttering issue had stopped, so it no longer felt like you were lifting off and then putting down, then lifting off and putting down, but it still felt like the whole car had 40 horsepower, like it felt severely underpowered. We kind of figured, all right, it fixed a fueling issue, but there's something else. There's another underlying issue going on here. Ready for the part that makes no sense that we still can't explain? I honestly forget if I ever showed this on camera, but you can even see the yellow marks there on the distributor and see how off they are. Like I'd have to rotate the distributor way counterclockwise to get those yellow marks to line up. Those yellow marks are originally where the distributor had to sit to give me the 20 degrees of timing that you want, because that's what the FSM states. I don't have a ton of experience, but on all the other KAs that I've done ignition timing on, usually that sits somewhat in the middle. You see how now it is, it's sitting pretty much in the middle of that that slotted adjustment area. When I rebuilt the engine, it had to be, I forget if I think that's all the way retarded or advanced. I still get those two mixed up. Regardless, it had to be almost maxed out counterclockwise in order for it to read 20 degrees on the timing light. What makes no sense is usually that's an indication of the distributor being a tooth off. I would pull the distributor, put it a tooth over advanced, and that the car wouldn't even idle, it wouldn't start, kind of as expected. So I'd pull it off, I'd put it back to where it was, I'd move it the other way, so a tooth retarded, the car wouldn't start, wouldn't even idle. Again, it shouldn't start or idle if it's a tooth off. I put it back to where it was, and the car would idle and run fine, but it would have to be like near the max of its adjustment range. And then just covering my own ass here, because I'll admit that I'm very new to all this. I had a good friend of mine, Steven, who works on cars professionally. He is very, very, very knowledgeable when it comes to cars, especially KAs. He did the exact same thing. He tested a tooth in both directions, because I thought, at this point I was like, I gotta be doing something wrong. Like, it's me. But no, he verified that it's weird that it's not sitting in the center of that adjustment range, but sure enough, like, that is the right range, according to the timing light and everything. So, the part of the story that really doesn't add up, after we replaced the fuel pump, the car still felt severely underpowered, like something was very wrong. We pulled the distributor out one last time, we put it a tooth over, boom, car wouldn't start. It's a tooth off. Pulled it back out, put it a tooth off the other way, put it back in, car wouldn't start because it's a tooth off. Pulled the distributor, put it right back to how I had it, and this is how it's been the entire time. We both verified, like, it's going back in where it was, without a doubt. All of a sudden, the car works perfectly. And the weirdest thing about it is now, all of a sudden, the adjustment is in the center of the range, like what I'm used to. Even though previously we marked where it was sitting before with the distributor on the same tooth, and that's where it needed to be to even idle. But now all of a sudden, it idles fine, dead in the center. We verified it with the timing light, and boom, it's spot on. It's 20 degrees. How is that possible when we put it right back where it was this whole time, It doesn't really make sense. The hypothesis that we've come up with, the fuel pump failing and not delivering enough fuel under load was causing the engine to run very lean, which means it's not getting enough fuel. Because the engine was running so lean, the knock sensor was actually functioning properly, which explains why there was no check engine light or any codes getting thrown, but the knock sensor was actually detecting knock because of how lean the engine was running, and when the knock sensor detects knock, it'll retard the timing to help protect the engine. That's why you felt sort of a stutter, and it felt like it was retarded because it was retarding timing. Our thought is that maybe because I had driven 1,500 miles with the fueling all messed up, maybe it had just adjusted the fuel trims and the ECU had sort of learned that it needed to retard timing to preserve the engine. So when we went for our first, 3-minute test drive after replacing the fuel pump, it still felt severely underpowered because the ECU was still retarding timing because it thought it was supposed to. And then maybe, pulling and restabbing the distributor after that was just really weird, convenient timing, and that was just the ECU. The ECU needed to learn. But see, that still doesn't explain why the distributor would be off in the same position. Unless like the fueling was messing up the time. I don't know. I don't know. Steven doesn't know either. So it's interesting. It is quite the mystery, but luckily we were able to figure it out and fix it. And it is just, it's a bummer that it was the day after the track day that we got it figured out. And then funny enough, so I'm filming this 2 days after this whole ordeal happened. Yesterday, which was the day after I got home, I went downstairs to go grab coffee and I wanted to take the 240. I'll cut to that footage. Oh, this car is just the gift that keeps on giving, huh? I went to go pull the car out to take it to go grab coffee this morning, and look at this. we have nothing. I don't even think I'm hearing the fuel pump prime. Yeah, we have no fuel pump. We somehow make it over 1,000 miles, pretty much hiccup free, and as soon as we get home, the car won't start. That's pretty crazy. I mean, I would take that over me getting stranded on the side of the freeway any day, but just pretty crazy timing that it lasted us the entire trip and then just happens to give out like after I park it in the garage at home. I have this hypothesis. It's kind of the only thing that makes any sense, but I'm hoping that possibly the fuel pump connector just came unplugged somehow randomly overnight. I'm not really saying that any of it makes sense. Okay, let's see if there's anything obvious going on. Well, I thought maybe one of those connections had came disconnected. Oh, you know what it could be? Aha. I bet that's all it was. And now, just real quick before I reassemble it, let's just make sure that the fuel pump primes. Yep, okay, we are good. I went ahead and made sure that the locking tab actually locked. I don't know why that happened though. And like, what are the odds? Let me set that down. What are the odds? Because we replaced the fuel pump in LA, which is still about 6.5 hours from my house. And I stopped multiple times. You know, I stopped to get gas. I stopped to get food on the drive home. So the fuel pump was fine from LA all the way to where I live, almost 7 hours. Multiple stops, bumpy roads, potholes, everything. It stayed connected. I parked up at the top driveway, unloaded the car, brought everything inside, turned the car back on, brought it down here, parked the car here, turned the car off, and then the next morning I wake up and the fuel pump is just disconnected. Weird, it's weird, right? In we go. Before we fully tighten everything and put the cover back on, I wanna make sure the lines don't leak. We will start by priming it. And we can hear the fuel pump, which is good. So far, not seeing any leaks. So let me go ahead and start the car. Aha! It's alive again! Yeah, I would say we're good. So I'm gonna go ahead and get the cover on. I lost the other 3 bolts. Okay, so now you are officially up to date. The car is fixed and now it's functioning as a drift car should. I've tried dumping the clutch, the wheels spin now. The engine is fully broken in. Like, this feels like a very normal, healthy drift car now. I am honestly severely bummed on this video. We have been building up to the first track day for, I think for months now, all for it to go severely wrong, and we didn't even get to drive it in this video, or drift it. We drove it a lot. Actually, what's the final mile count? We rebuilt the engine at 387,737, and we're at 389,328. That puts us at 1,561 miles on the new engine since building it. Despite all the BS fueling issues that we had and not being able to drift this thing at the track, despite all of that, we built a healthy engine. And for that, I am proud of that. It's a bummer that we didn't get to drift in this video, but one way or another, we are going to slide this car in the next video. I appreciate you guys bearing with me, and I'm sorry this wasn't the, climactic grand reveal that we were all hoping for. But I mean, hey, we got nothing but time. It's a fun project. Appreciate you guys watching and supporting. I guess I'll see you guys next video. Peace out.